using all of the information that we've been sort of, collecting, all the skills we've been using to now use our own, this information for our own benefit. Because our guiding questions are, why are education, books, and reading important? And why, and then the last question is, how do I overcome a challenge? That's the second part. And so we are going to sort of focus on this unit about a little bit about, we're still going to learn about how other people overcome learning problems or learning challenges, but we are going to start focusing also on our own and how can we use what we've learned to improve our own lives. And so that's where we're going with this next. All right, so let me get all my, oh, of course at the end, always at the end. All right, so lesson 1 of unit 3. Here's my, oh my goodness. You guys are so patient with me. You think that by this time I get it all done, right? All right, our learning targets. Today, I can determine the gist of more than anything else. So we have a new book that we're going to read today that I'm going to read to you. And today we're going to look at the gist. Who can remind me of what is the gist? August. What the story is mostly about, right? We take the story and we get those main pieces and we kind of squish them into one, idea, sort of, right? So we're going to be doing that, and just like we did with Nazarene Secret School, just like we did with Waiting for the Billy O'Burrow, and what we did with the, some of the other books that we've read. So today is it's a fiction book, but it's a fiction book that's based on a real person. So it is a fictional rendition of what happened, but it is about a real person. And then today we're also going to identify what the central message is. And the book is called, again, More Than Anything Else. So what I want you to think of for just a moment, before we get into the actual books and so forth, this is sort of a silent moment. I want you to think about, what do you want? And we're not saying it out loud, but what would you want more than anything else? Just think, something you would really work hard for, something that you want more than anything else. So we're doing it silently, Mr. Ethan. We're not sharing our ideas right now. I just want you to think about it. Because today in our story, you will hear about what a particular person wanted more than anything else. So we're going to work on overcoming challenges. And we're going to start with reading about a boy who had some reading challenges and overcame them despite a very, very challenging situation. And it's about a real person. His name is Booker T. Washington. Has anybody ever heard that name before? Booker T. Washington? Does anybody know anything about him? What do you think, Miss Madison?
My mom always talks about him. So I usually hear my mom say that he did have a lot of struggling in his life, and how he had to try to get better at reading.
Okay, so Madison said she's heard about Booker T. Washington from her mom, and that she talks about him. All right. Anybody, Sunny, do you know anything about Booker T. Washington?
I think he was related to Washington.
I think you're going to find out that that's not quite right, but he was from a long time ago, and so you will definitely hear some historical things in what we're reading, but not related to that particular guy. Abby, do you think you know anything about Booker T. Washington?
My dad really likes his book, and he really likes to talk about him.
Okay.
And he says a lot of stuff to me, so I'm kind of satisfied.
Okay, so you've heard about him. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
That Abby said her dad has mentioned him before. All right, so we're going to read this book. And while we're reading this book, I'm going to hit real quick. So we are always talking about being ethical people, that we in this classroom, and we would like to be an ethical person, showing respect. Today, you're going to have to put yourself in somebody else's spot in history. You're going to read about something that happened a long time. We're going to read about something that happened a long time ago. We've got to be respectful, because in that, it's not like now. Things that we're going to read about, it's a very different time than we have at the moment. So we are going to appreciate what was going on at that time, because it was a long time ago, and be very respectful of what we hear about what life was like back then. We're going to behave with integrity. We're going to do some hard work in the next couple days in the next unit. So we're going to keep that in mind. We have to show empathy. Remember, understanding or trying to take into account of feelings and the situation, what's going on with others. So today I'm going to ask you to think about, as I read the story, I want to ask you to think about if you were in this boy's position. Like, how would you feel? What would, what would be going on with you if you were in that spot? And compassion. Obviously, we try to make people feel better. And so think about if you were in that time, even if you know Booker T. Washington, what would maybe be something you would do to help him out? All right, I'm gonna go ahead, out of my thing here. All right. So my friends at home, there is a copy of all the words for this attached in case you want to read this again later. And there is also a video of someone reading this book if you want to have it read to you again later as well. As soon as my dock camera wants to open up, that'd be great. All right, so here we go. More than anything else. Let's see if we can get it bigger. Yes, thank you, Miss Liz. You knew exactly what I was going to ask you. There you go. Thank you so much. All right, More Than Anything Else. Story by Marie Bradby. Pictures by Chris K. Sonio-Patpea. French, I don't know. I didn't do it very well. The guy on the video did it super well. All right, so here's our first picture here. And this is our dedication page. So you can get it. I think the picture is super important for what you're going to hear later. I'm just going to let you look at that for a moment. You're going to find out. So the copyright of this book is 1995. And so I want you to think about, can you figure out how many years ago this book was written? 1995. Think about how many years ago. Nixon, what do you think? How did you figure out 25 years? Okay, so Nixon said, very good, Nixon, excellent thinking. So he added 5 to 95 to make 2000, and 2000 to 2020 is 20 years, and added those together. All right, here we go. So I'm going to show some pictures are really important to see. I'm going to go ahead and close my little my remote friend. So if there are any questions, Mrs. Hobbin, I can't see anybody. All right, just for now. All right, before light, while the stars still twinkle, Papa, my brother, John, and I leave our cabin and take the main road out of town, headed to work. The road hugs the ridge between the Kanawha River and the mountain. We travel it by lantern. My stomach rumbles, for we had no morning meal. But it isn't really a meal I want, though I would not turn one down. More than anything else, I want to learn to read. But for now, I must work. From sunup to sundown, we pack salt in barrels at the salt works. Did that answer your question about what that picture was?
That's like a big pile of salt.
Oh my goodness. Everybody here is very impressed with the amount of salt. Oh, no, they're not. A white mountain of salt rises above Papa's head all day long. We shovel it, but it refuses to grow smaller. We stop only to grab a bite, sweet potatoes and corn cakes that Papa has brought along in his coat pocket. As I eat every crumb of my meal, I stare at the white mountain. Salt is heavy and rough. The shiny white crystals leave cuts on your hands, your arms, your legs, and the soles of your feet. You look at their feet. They have no shoes on. My arms ache from lifting the shovel, but I do not think about the pain there. I think about the hunger still in my head, reading. I have seen some people, young and old, do it. I am 9 years old, and I know if I had a chance, I could do it too. I think there's a secret in those books. In the chill of the evening, I follow Papa and John back up to the road, stopping to catch a frog. The frog wiggles and slips, but I hold on tight and let go when I want to. There is something different about this place where we live now. All people are free to go where they want and do what they can. Book learning swims freely around in my head, and I hold it as long as I want. Back in town, coal miners, rivermen, loggers, and coopers gather on the corner. They are worn out as me, but full of tales. What in this case, what is tales? What does tales mean, Abby? Stories, yes. I see a man reading a newspaper aloud, and all doubt falls away. I have found hope, and it is as brown as me. I see the man, and as I watch his eyes move across the paper, it is as if I know what the black marks mean, as if I am the one reading, as if everyone is listening to me, and I hold that thought in my hands. I will work until I am the best reader in the county. Children will crowd around me, and I will teach them to read. But Papa taps me on the shoulder. Come on. And John tugs my shirt. They don't see what I see. They don't see what I can be. We hurry home. I have to learn to read, I say. She holds my hand and feels my hunger racing as fast as my heart. It is a small book, A Blue Color of Midnight. She gives it to me one evening in the corner of our cabin, pulling it from under the clothes that she washes and irons to make a little money. She doesn't say where she got it. She can't read herself, but she knows this is something called the alphabet. She thinks it's a singy kind of thing, a song on paper. So I'm purposefully not having a conversation about the book yet. So, but hopefully you're thinking about things as we're reading it, it's making you think of certain things, think about certain things. We will share some ideas in a bit. Got the book. After work, even though my shoulders still ache and my legs are stained with salt, I study my book. I stare at the marks and try to imagine their song. I draw the marks on the dirt floor and try to figure out what sounds they make, what story that their picture tells. See what he's doing? But sometimes I feel like I'm trying to jump without legs, and my thoughts get slippery, and I can't keep up with what I want to be, and how good I will feel when I learn this magic, and how people will look up to me. I can't catch the tune of what I see. I get a salt shoveling pain and feel my dreams are slipping away. I have got to find him. I've got to find that newspaper man. I look everywhere. Finally, I find that brown face of hope. Uh-oh, what happened? There we go. Froze for a minute there. He tells me the song, the sounds the marks make. I jump up and down singing it. I shout and laugh when I was like when I was baptized in the creek. I have jumped into another world and I feel I am saved. How happy he is. You see what he's drawing? But I have to know more. Tell me more, I say. What's your name, he asks. Booker, I say. And he takes the sound of my name and draws it on the ground. I linger over that picture because now I know I can hold it forever. Okay, so I want you just for about 15 seconds, think about how this book made you feel, things this book made you think of, and things that you realized as you were reading along, as we were reading the book. Oh, this is not the page I wanted. All right, so the story reminded me of, the story made me think about a time when, and what questions do you have after hearing the story? I just want you to think about them. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take a moment to put my friends that are in the, that are remote, I'm going to form a couple of breakout groups. And I want you to take some time, or you could do it if you'd like, Mrs. Auden. All right, just like a group of 2 or 3, depending on how it breaks away. Depending on how many friends we have. Oh, it's not letting you for co-host? Oh, all right. Well, I'm worried about that when I record. Is that a problem? I'll just do it. It's all right. All right. There we go. All right, so my friends at home, you're going to have a breakout group, and I want you just for a moment or two to share, everybody share in the breakout group what you are thinking, what questions you have, what it reminded you of, or if you realized something while the book was going, okay? All right, I'm going to go ahead and get you guys started. All right, the rest of you in here, what I'd like you to do is just turn to somebody near you and have a little bit of a conversation about what did it make you think of? What did you realize? What questions do you have? All right. All righty. Here we go. All right, everybody's coming on back. All right. Okay. So what were some things that you talked about in your groups? I'm going to see if I can get my pictures back here. All right, Ben, can you unmute and tell us what you were talking about in your group?
Miss Aubin and I were talking about how the last name of the boy, it reminded us about the Washington place, and we also talked about a lot of other things.
Okay, so, all right, Charlie, B, go ahead.
I agree with him. Books are almost like magic. You can think of you can read the words, and then there's no pictures. You can make the pictures up.
Very good. I love that, Charlie. I love that. Yeah, because you're using your mind, right? But if you can't read the words, then that's not available to you, right? If you can't read the words, you can't use your imagination. You just saw a book full of marks, right? How might you feel if every time, you know, like, first of all, he didn't have any books until his mom gave him one, right? And he had this book, but he couldn't read it. Didn't know what those marks meant. So that was hard. All right, anybody else? Miss Isabella, do you want to share what your group shared?
I said, who was Booker T. Washington?
You wanted to know more about him?
So I looked it up on the internet and read some stuff about him.
All right. Did you find anything out interesting?
Yeah. It says he was a president advisor for multiple presidents.
Ah, so that's pretty cool considering when he was your age, 9, he didn't even know how to read, right? That's pretty incredible. All right, I'm going to get some people from here. So August, what did you and your partners talk about? All right, August just said that he and his partner said they feel thankful because they know how to read, and that we should all feel thankful for about that. Nice job. All right, Mr. Noah, what did your group talk about? He wanted to read more than anything else. So was that similar to what you wanted when I said, what did you want more than anything else? What did you say in your head? Really? I'm surprised. All right, Matt, say it again. Math. You wanted to be really good at math? That was what you want more than anything else? All right. So similar kind of idea. All right, Madison, what did your group share? About when we were young and we didn't know how to read and stuff. And how it felt? Okay, so Madison said it reminds her when they were little, when you guys were all little and didn't know how to read, and how that you felt in that situation. Like when you're in so he is older than us. So what I'd like to do now is I'm going to, so in your work, I want everybody open your EL book to page 67. Because I think you're going to have a whole different idea about this story after we read what's on page 67. Because what you don't know, like Isabella looked up some stuff about his later life, but what you don't know is what was going on during this time that makes a big impact about this story. So look at page 67. And we're going to read it together, but those of you can read with your eyes. You don't have to look at the screen. Oh, I don't understand why I'm hearing voices though, because this is a silent sort of thing. All right, so on page 67. So on this page, it gives you an idea. So we're going to read it together, but I want you to think what this new information makes you think about this story in even now a different way. All right. Okay, so I'd love if you could read with your eyes on page 67 in your book while I read aloud. So Mr. Hendrick, eyes are on the book. You're reading your book? while I'm reading aloud. Here we go. More than 300 years ago, traders captured thousands of people from West Africa and enslaved them. The traders forced the enslaved Africans to travel to the United States. Owners could do whatever they wanted with the enslaved people, including selling them. This would separate families. In the United States, most enslaved people worked on farms called plantations. Enslaved people, including children, were forced to work terribly hard for very long hours with no pay. Owners often beat enslaved people to force them to work. Owners often gave enslaved people very little food. They needed a pass to go anywhere. A pass was a note written by owners giving permission for enslaved people to leave the plantation. Owners did not allow enslaved people to learn to read or write. Enslaved people could be punished just for carrying a book, paper, or a pencil. One reason owners did not let enslaved people write was to prevent them from running away by writing their own passes. Okay, so we're going to stop there for a second. So I want you to think about that. So this passage uses the word enslaved. What word is inside there that you also might have seen somewhere? Paxton. Slave. So in the United States, up until the 1860s, it was okay for people to own other people because of the color of their skin. And so, I mean, hopefully most of us using our ethical people skills right now are thinking that's pretty awful, that someone could own someone else and force them to work without pay. But that's what happened in our country. And it was mostly, Mr. Sawyer, I need your focus for me. There was a thing that was done here. And it was not even, you know, for many people, it was not thought of as a bad thing. That was just the way things were. And they treated them like belongings. Okay? So now I'm setting that stage because I want you to, because Booker and his situation is directly related to the situation here. Okay? So the United States abolished slavery at the end of the Civil War in 1865. So abolish means did not any longer allow, okay? Made it illegal, okay? So they made it illegal at the end of the Civil War in 1865. People who had been enslaved had to continue to work terribly hard for very little money to survive. They were allowed to learn how to read and write. However, many couldn't go to school because they had to work. There were not many people to teach others because they were busy doing something else, right? So if we're putting this situation in context with what was happening in our book, why was Booker so amazed to see another person with his same skin color being able to read? Why was he so amazed about that? Marin? Well, he really wanted to read, but why was he amazed that finally he saw someone that looked like him be able to read? Elena? Because, well, not a lot of the people that had brown skin or black skin, depending on what you want to call it, had the ability to read, right? Because they were prevented from reading. And if you were an enslaved person, they didn't want you to read. In fact, they made it so that you could. They wouldn't allow it. So, because if you could read and write, then you could write on a piece of paper and you would be able to give yourself maybe a pretend pass to get away from your owner. And they definitely didn't want them to do that. So they took away that option. And so he hadn't seen very many people that looked like him be able to read, because it was very infrequent that anybody could do that. All right. So does it seem as if Booker is an enslaved person? I see some no's. I see some no's. Is somebody forcing him to go to work? No. So is he an enslaved person? No. Is his family appear to be free? Yes. They're free. They're not enslaved. But they have to work very hard, because because once many of the enslaved people were let free after things were made illegal, they didn't have, they were forced to, okay, now, just go and make your life. But they didn't have things to have, they didn't have stuff. They didn't have anything before, and now they don't have anything after, but they have to work for money to feed themselves and make shelter, right? So there wasn't much time for people to go to school. So had Booker been to a school? No, he hadn't had a chance to be at a school. Logan, I see that you have your hand raised. What would you like to share? Can't see Mr. Logan, but he had to hit his hand up there. Logan, I'm sorry, did you have something you wanted to share with us? No? Okay. Just accidentally clicked on the raised hand. Okay, no worries. Just want to make sure I was getting to you. Okay, so now what I want you to do is I want you to think for a couple of moments about, does this change your view of the story a little bit? I see some yeses from nodding over here. It kind of changes some of, not all of our ideas probably, but does it add something to what's going on in the story? Yeah. Yes, it kind of gives you a better idea of what the main character is dealing with, right? What he's going through. And that's part of our empathy, right? Putting ourselves in his shoes. Is he doing what he needs to do to survive? Yeah, he's going to work with his brother and his dad. Does he have a lot of time to read books? Do they have a lot of money to buy him books? So, and there isn't a school for him to learn how to read at this point. So that's something that's going on there. Okay. Yeah, Jensen, did you have something you wanted to share?
He says no.
No. All right. That's all right. No worries. All right. So what I want us to do now is I'm going to read the story again, but I'm going to read it a little faster, because last time I really wanted you to soak it up. But I want you to see if you can notice different things now, okay? Now that you know what the basic story is and you have the context, because we're going to answer some questions. We're going to do the gist here in a minute, and think about what you think the central message is. What is the author teaching us in this story, and why do you think so, okay? Why would the author write us this story? What do they want us to get? What does she want us to get? Okay, I'm going to read it again, but I'm going to do it a little faster. But I want you to, again, to be thinking, okay? Before light, where the stars still twinkle, Papa, my brother John, and I leave for our cabin and take the main road out of town, headed to work. The road hugs the ridge between the Kennewath River and the mountain. We travel it by lantern. My stomach rumbles, for we had no morning meal. But it isn't really a meal I want, though I would not turn one down. More than anything else, I want to learn to read. But for now, I must work from sun up to sundown. We put salt in barrels and salt works. So some of my friends were in here when we were discussing things, were a little confused about this. So salt, when they first get salt, many of the times it comes in large chunks. It's a natural rock. And so then they would use these factories and things to break and areas to break up those rocks into smaller pieces like we're used to having for salt. But in that process, to get it to somewhere else, they'd have to put it in barrels so that they could send it to other places, because salt is not a natural substance everywhere. So to get it to places that don't naturally have salt. A white mountain of salt rises above Papa's head. All day long we shovel it, but it refuses to grow smaller. We stop only to grab a bite, sweet potatoes and corn cakes that Papa's brought along in his coat pocket. As I eat every crumb of my meal, I stare at the white mountain. Salt is heavy and rough. The shiny white crystals leave cuts on your hands, your arms, your legs, the soles of your feet. Did that give you a more idea about how hard of work it is to do and why he's not wearing shoes? Think about why we know maybe now he's not wearing shoes. My arms ache from lifting the shovel, but I do not think about the pain there. I think about the hunger still in my head. Reading. I've seen some people, young and old, do it. I am 9 years old, and I know if I had a chance, I could do it too. I think there's a secret in those books. In the chill of the evening, I follow Papa and John back up the road, stopping to catch a frog. The frog wiggles and slips, but I hold on tight and let it go when I want to. There is something different about this place where we live now. All people are free to go where they want and to do what they can. Book learning swims freely around in my head, and I hold it as long as I want. Back in town, coal miners, rivermen, loggers, and coopers gather on the corner. They are worn out as me, but full of tales. I see a man reading a newspaper aloud, and all doubt falls away. I have found hope, and it is as brown as me. I see myself, the man, and as I watch his eyes move across the paper, it is as if I know what those black marks mean, and as if I am reading, as if everyone is listening to me, and I hold that thought in my hands. I will work until I am the best reader in the county. Children will crowd around me and I will teach them to read. The Papa taps me on the shoulder. Come on. And John tugs at my shirt. They don't see what I see. They don't see what I can be. We hurry home. Mama, I have to learn to read, I say. She holds my hand and feels my hunger racing as fast as my heart. It is a small book, the blue, the color of midnight. She gives it to me one evening in the corner of our cabin, pulling it from under the clothes that she washes and irons to make a little money. She doesn't say where she got it. She can't read it herself, but she knows this is something called the alphabet. She thinks it is a singy kind of thing, a song on paper. So why can't the mom read? Why do you think the mom can't read? Paxton?
Because she's a moron. Because she is like her son. She can't read because she money and she never had time to do it.
Very possible, but so that idea that he said over here, all people are free now. Do you think his mom wasn't free at one point? Yes, she was a slave, therefore she was not allowed to read. So you're right, she hasn't had a chance to go to school, but most of her life she wasn't allowed to read. His parents were enslaved. After work, even though my shoulders still ache and my legs are stained with salt, I study my book. I stare at the marks and try to imagine their song. I draw the marks on the dirt floor and try to figure out what sounds they make, what story their picture tells. But sometimes I feel I am trying to jump without legs, and my thoughts get slippery, and I can't keep up with what I want to be, and how good I will feel when I learn this magic, and how people will look up to me. I can't catch the tune of what I see. I get a salt shoveling pain and feel my dreams are slipping away. I've got to find him, that newspaper man. So when it says it's kind of a song, the alphabet, what does that mean? Why is it a kind of song? Serene? There's an alphabet song, right? When we're little, we all learn the A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So it makes sense that he says it's kind of a song thing, it's kind of a singing thing, because they sing those letters, don't they? I look everywhere, and finally, I find that brown face of hope. He tells me the song, the sounds the marks make. I jump up and down singing. I shout and laugh when I was baptized in the creek. I have jumped into another world and I am saved. But I have to know more. Tell me more, I say. What's your name, he asks. Booker, I say. And he takes the sounds of my name and draws it on the ground. I linger over that picture. I know I can hold it forever. So did we notice things the second time that we didn't notice the first time? A little bit, so that we kind of put things in perspective when we know the context of what we're doing. All right, so everybody sees on page 66, you have our gist page. We're gonna put this together, my friends. We're gonna go ahead and fill this in. So my friends at home, make sure you have your pencil ready. Everybody here, get out that pencil. Here we go. All right, so thinking about our story. So overcoming learning challenge in more than anything else. More than anything else is the name of the book. Does this page look familiar? Have we done this before? Yes, several times, right? So this, we should be experts at this by this point. The author's name is Marie, capital M, Marie Bradby, capital B, R-A-D, then a B, Y, Bradby. All right, overcoming learning challenges. So who's our somebody? Oh, I see lots of hands here and there. Come on, who's my Josh? Booker, exactly. My somebody is Booker, and we're gonna go ahead and give his whole name since we know it. Booker T. Washington. But Booker is our somebody. Booker is our character. All right, does anybody remember where our story takes place? Yes, Tony? Okay, A-N-Y-T-H-I-N-G. Anything. All right. Does anybody remember what it told us? Probably a hard one for us to remember. All right, our story. So I'll give you a hint here. Our place, it says the road hugs the ridge between the Kanawha River and the mountain. So that is our, so we're gonna say near, and I will help you spell Kanawha. So what kind of letter is Kanawha gonna have on it? No, that's, it is a K, but what kind of K? Okay, so we have learned that if it's that it should be a C, but this is a place, and so it's not places and names don't necessarily follow our rules that Mrs. Harrison taught you in skills, right? So that was a great guess. But Kanawha, near the Kanawha River. And where else did some of our story take place? Where does he do most of his working? Do you remember, Ren? The salt, they call it the salt works, yeah. All right. This one should be easy. What did he want? Not just books. He didn't want to be able to read, and to read for him meant to know what something meant, and to know, what did he want to know? When he looked at the book his mom gave him, what was inside it to him? black marks, right? To know what those black marks mean. What are those black marks? What do they mean? And by the way, friends at home and here, you don't have to write this word for word, that what Mrs. Harris, you can use your own, you can paraphrase or you can write it in your own words. I'm just helping you. But you don't have to write it word for word. So those of you who are like, just know if you have a better way to say it and write it down, you can do that. All right, you wanted to be able to read and know what all those black marks mean, but what's keeping him from doing that? Miss Sunny, what's keeping him from doing that? He can't go to school because he has to work, right? Okay. His family needs the money, don't they? Doesn't have time to go to school because he has to work. Has to work at the salt works. And he works really long hours, doesn't he? It said from sun up to sundown. So that's a long time. That's a long day. That's longer than our school day for sure, huh? Yeah. But, okay, so he has this problem. Does he just say, oh, bummer, I just can't read? Oh, well. No, what does he do to solve his problem? What does he do, writer? He did persevere, but what did he have to actually do? He actually had to do something active to get himself what he needed. You needed to find who, Mr. Cooper? The newspaper man. Yeah, exactly. He asks the newspaper man. And he asks him for help to read, right? Yeah, he doesn't just say, oh, oh, woe is me, and look at that book without doing something. He searched out the newspaper man. And he knew that the newspaper man probably would be willing to help him because he probably was compassionate and knew that this kid was like him and would want to know and would want to know what he knows. So this leads us to our last section here. This is the hard part. We got to figure out now, based on what we read and based on what we know now about the historical context. So I know you guys are still writing, so I'm stalling here a little bit, but when Ryder and I were talking about what he was thinking about the story, we know that the story was written in 1995, but is the story set in 1995? No, it's set in the 1800s, right? So it's what's going on in the story is from the 1800s, but it was written in 1995, over 100 years later. So why did this author think this was a good book for us to be able to read? What did the author want us to learn from Booker T? So Booker T, we know he's a real person. And Isabel even looked him up to see that he became a successful, person, the advisor to various presidents. That's a pretty big deal, right? You're telling presidents about, things, you got to be a pretty important guy. But why do you think the author wanted us to read this story about this kid and the things he had to go through to be able to read, to get what he wanted more than anything else, right? That's the name of the book. more than anything else. What do you think, Elena? What do you think? Oh, I can't hear you, sweetheart. Okay, I like that persevering word. We're going to get that in there for sure. What else is so important for us to learn? What do you think, Sunny? What is the what did she want us to figure out from reading this? Sometimes it's hard to put it in words, isn't it? Yeah, sometimes we kind of know, but it's hard to like put it into words. Writer?
To always ask for help.
Oh, to ask for help. I like that idea. My friends at home, does anybody at home have an idea of what our central message, what the author wants us to get away, take away? Oh, Lila, I saw everybody but her, I think. All right, Lila, tell us what you think.
So I think it's to not be selfish and to think of other people and to use empathy.
Okay, so how is Booker doing all those things if he's our main character?
He was asking for help,
Okay.
and I think the author wants us to know how we should feel for other people.
Okay, all right. And do like the newspaper man and help them. Okay, Abby, what do you think?
I think what the author's trying to tell us is be kind to other people when they need it.
Be kind to other people when they need it. Okay, all right. Sunny, did you come up with it? Okay, go for it.
Don't give up and keep trying.
Don't give up. Keep trying. Excellent. Along with that perseverance idea. Madison, what else?
I think the author wants us to learn about compassion and perseverance.
Compassion.
To learn like how not to be so shy.
Ah, not to be so shy. Ask for help. Ah, very good. So what we're leading up to here, friends, is we're going to be deciding about some things in our own life that are challenges to us. And reading might not be a challenge to you. Some of you it might be, but not all of us. But so let's think of it in that context of why we're reading this book as a class. Is it definitely has to do with when there are challenges, you still can persevere and ask for help when you need it, right? So a combination of those things. So we're going to write here, and tomorrow we're going to look for details in the text that help us figure this out, okay? So even when, I'm going to get that challenge word in there. You know I like that challenge word, right? Even when there are challenges, we're all going to talk about our own challenges. I'm going to go ahead and focus on the learning to read, but to do anything, learning to do other things as well is worth persevering, right? And sometimes we need to do what? Ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. Would Booker have been able to learn he tried to learn how to read on his own, didn't he? He looked at that book and he looked at that book and he looked at that book, but he couldn't figure out those words on his own. He needed someone to help him. He needed to ask for help. All right. And that's some of those things that we're going to take in the rest of this whole unit. So we're going to think about how we can use some things we learn from other people to improve ourselves. All right. I know some of us are still writing, so I'm going to leave that up there, but I'm also going to see if I can split my screen here a little bit. So I want to check in on, maybe not. Let's see here. All right, still gonna have that over here. Also, hold on guys, I know you're all sad at me. Okay, hold on. Here we go. Try to be two things at one time here. That there, so you can still see it. All right, so think about, as you're finishing writing up there, how'd we do on the gist? Did you feel pretty good about it? I mean, did you have those ideas before I even wrote them down on the paper so you know what to put? If Mrs. Harrison had just given you the paper and said go, would you have been able to do that by yourself maybe? Maybe? Okay. How about being able to come up with the central message? Well, we did it pretty well together, didn't we? Yeah, we felt pretty good about that. Tomorrow is the second step. We're going to take that idea that we have about our challenge, and we're going to find details inside the text that can support that idea and use that, because we always got to use that text, right? Got to use that text all the time. Yes, Miss Elena. I say it one more time. Oh, the bottom of this. Put it up a little higher. That work? All right. Okay, my friends, we did a great job today. If anybody at home isn't quite finished with that, go ahead and so you can look in the you can look at a copy of the book, again, attach the assignments, and you can also there's also a little movie in there if you want to listen to somebody else read it as well. Well, it's a video, but it's,
Why do you call it a movie?
oh, because that's an old person word, I guess. All right, my friends. We will see you at 12:45. And thank you so much for working hard today. Appreciate it, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Next 45.